The Atlanta Falcons have full control now of the NFC South after beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for a second time this season, while the Dallas Cowboys are coming off a tough Sunday night football loss to the San Francisco 49ers. A predictable story over the past couple of years that we have seen. Now the Cowboys are flying to Atlanta to take on my Atlanta Falcons. My name's Tyler, here with my brother Ryan, and we're going to break down this Cowboys-Falcons Week 9 game and provide our predictions at the very end of the video. But before we get into that, if you haven't already, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, leave a like and a comment. Let us know who you think is going to win this game and why. So, Ryan, as a Falcons fan, I am excited that we won the game, and I can absolutely recognize the absolute fortune that Falcons are experiencing with the rest of our division going through the major injury bug. Or if you're the Panthers, your team just sucks. So it's either that, essentially for the three teams that we're going up against. And this week we're going up against a Cowboys team that is also going through the injury bug, and the Buccaneers are playing the Chiefs. So I'll say right now for Falcons fans, if you don't think this is our division to lose, especially after the past couple of years where we thought it was our division to lose, this is the most opportune time. Like, this is our division to lose right now. If we don't win this division, don't make the playoffs, what the hell are we doing? And so I'm going to kind of dive into the defense here a little bit, but I want to talk about the Cowboys first, coming off a tough Sunday night football loss where their injuries are absolutely showing that they're experiencing. Didn't have Micah Parsons again. Marcus Lawrence is on IR. Brandon Cooks is on IR. Deron Bland is looking to trying to be coming back here. Several other guys that are out as well. And on top of that, too, I think Dak Prescott just doesn't look that good, and I think a lot of it's not really his fault. But I want to throw it over to you first. What do you think the Cowboys need to do to bounce back, sitting at 3-4 on the season here, to try and make a good playoff push and contend for this NFC East team?
Yeah, and I'll push back a little bit. I think Dak has looked okay. My big thing is he hasn't always shown up in the big moments, just kind of like throughout his career. You go look, the San Francisco playoff game, I believe both San Francisco playoff games, he kind of had some duds, like inopportune plays and some bad interceptions at times. And so like, it's just those slight, like those moments that like, to me, really keep Dak out of that elite quarterback conversation. And he is a good quarterback and he can do a lot of really good things. My thing right now, outside of CeeDee Lamb, and I'll throw Jake Ferguson in that category as well, because he's a really good kind of possession receiver tight end. This offense just doesn't do him a lot of favors. This offensive line has struggled so far this year, and they've had a pretty tough schedule as well. But like all in all, I think they just need to get back into the routine of their offense. Like this, I feel like for them, it's kind of big play or bust. They either like go 3 and out, or they have a good drive and kind of piece things together well. It's the consistency there that they're really struggling with. And defensively, they're pretty banged up. I don't know, is Micah Parsons back yet?
No, he's not back yet. I'm hoping he's out one more week. I hope he comes back after the Falcons game. But he's not back yet. DeMarcus Lawrence is still out. Deron Bland's still out. They have a couple other guys, like key guys that have been out. So, like, to be all fair, especially to my future analysis coming up to this Cowboys defense, they have been very injured as well. Yeah. So I don't know if you had a point that you want to finish there before I comment.
No, to me, it's just this. To me, this Cowboys defense itself was very high flying. They had a lot of really good stats, but I think when push came to shove and they actually played against teams that could run the ball downhill and do like have consistent offense, that's where this defense struggled, because they could kind of neutralize. I don't say neutralize Micah Parsons because he's one of the best defenders in the league, but the best way to attack Micah Parsons is to just run the football right at him. Because then he can't explode off the ball how he wants to, and he has to play contain and kind of factor that into his pass rush. And so like that to me, and then you look, Trayvon Diggs led the league in interceptions a couple years ago, and I think specifically pick sixes also. But he also gave up a lot of plays. He was a very boomer bust player, and I think to me that's just kind of how this Cowboys defense played. Right now they're really banged up. And so they are struggling a little bit. And this is a really good Falcons offense. They are, I believe, one of the more efficient offenses in the league. Your guys' bugaboo is that you just can't really rush the passer on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, no, I agree with that completely. I'll get to that in a second. I think sticking with the Cowboys here. So I agree with you somewhat that Dak is not entirely his fault. just because with Brandon Cooks being out, that's just another weapon that they don't have. And it really is. It seems like it's CeeDee Lamb or bust. I mean, Jake Ferguson's a good tight end in the league. He's probably their second best receiving option. But and then to defend Dak a little bit as well, they have the worst rushing offense in the league. They have no rushing attack whatsoever. And on the flip side too, statistically, they're one of the worst defenses as well. And so they're banged up as we have talked about also. So I can completely understand how like it's tough, especially to being the quarterback of the team, being like, I got to lead this offense, especially to knowing your defense is going to give up just an absolute, it's PG friendly, just a bunch of points, just absolutely a bunch of points. And so knowing that you got to go be perfect and you're limited on the offensive side of the ball as well to kind of be one dimensional. That being said though, too, you kind of go and watch just some of his throws. He just makes just some bad throws. It seems like even you go look at the Steelers game, he had a couple of interceptions in the red zone, had a couple of bad interceptions in the game last night against the 49ers. Some of it kind of reminds me of Josh Allen over the past couple of years, not this year, but it's like he's forcing himself to make these throws into these tight windows that just aren't there. And maybe that's it. Maybe it's being overly aggressive because of some of the points that we've said. But it definitely is. It's just having obviously, whenever you throw turnovers, it's going to have a negative impact on the team as well. But leave a comment, Cowboys fans, down below on kind of what you think of Dak's performance overall. I want to flip it over, though, to the Falcons as well. And a solid performance against Tampa Bay Buccaneers again. That I think we match up well against Tampa Bay that doesn't have a good secondary. And I know the Cowboys have Trayvon Diggs, but with Teron Bland being out, they're giving up a bunch of yards. I think we're going to match up well against them as well in the passing game. Also, too, if Micah Parsons doesn't come back, and then they also have DeMarcus Lawrence out, I think we're going to match up well against them in the running game as well. I hope that we keep on improving in that category. One of the things that concerns me, though, with the Falcons, and been reading some of this stuff here and the Falcons fear as well, is Jimmy Lake. What are you doing, man? I mean, like watching that game there, too, it's like, they don't have Chris Godwin. They don't have Mike Evans. Like, they can really only throw it to Cade Otton, as we all saw, or their running backs. They don't really have anybody else that they could throw it to. And yet Falcons gave up, what was it? Let me pull up the stats here. They gave up 432 total yards of offense, 330 passing yards. Like, and on top of that, too, we had 6 pressures the entire game. Like, it was funny, too. Yeah. Our defensive line is, to be fair to Jimmy Lake a little bit, I think they are in their low 30s or whatnot, and Rook got hurt as well, like our second-round rookie. So I have to kind of see his status. But just no pass rush whatsoever. So we're probably going to be handed this NFC South. Like I don't want to jinx it or whatnot, but Tampa Bay's playing Kansas City on the road on Monday Night Football. We have an opportunity here to go 2 games up on them with the tiebreaker as well. And we still get to play the Saints, who are banged up, the Panthers, who suck, and a couple other games that I think we can just favorably well. Like we can easily just work our way to 10 wins this season, and we should work. Yeah. That being said, though, if we host a playoff game, this defensive line is atrocious. It's like one of the worst ones in the league. When we have Grady Jarrett, we go and get Rook Aurora. I'm mispronouncing the name. Then we go and trade for Matt Judon, and I apologize, Rook. I'm sorry. And we still just cannot get after the quarterback like at all.
Yeah.
And Bucs have a solid offensive line, yes, but I want to see Dak Prescott under duress, especially too knowing this team cannot run the ball. They can't. They have Zeke and Dalvin Cook, like MVP running backs from 2015. Like, this team cannot run the ball. They have Rico Dowdle, who missed the last game for an illness, so he'll probably be back. But still, they cannot run the ball, And they really only have CeeDee Lamb, especially too if Brandon Cooks doesn't come back. We do have to worry about Jake Ferguson, yes. But I want to see Dak Prescott under duress the entire game, because what concerns me now is something similar to the Seahawks game. The Cowboys' weakness is they can't run the ball. Their offensive line is spotty at best. And the Seahawks were like that as well. And we could not capitalize on their weaknesses. Like, our weakness is probably the biggest weakness in the entire league. And
the weird thing, too – sorry to interrupt. But, the weird thing, too, about it – No. The weird thing, too, about the Falcons' lack of pressure on the quarterback is you guys have a good secondary. Like, Justin Simmons, A.J. Terrell, Jesse Bates. Like, you have good corners that you could actually put in some tougher situations because they can handle it. and you can actually send 5-6 guys and just kind of manufacture pressure that way.
Yeah.
And so that to me is like, I don't quite understand the lack of pass rush there.
Shoot, man, you can say the only good thing about our defense this past week against the Bucs was Jesse Bates, who had a fumble and a pick. AJ Terrell had a pick as well. Other than that, though, like, it was funny. You're watching this game because they didn't have Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, and you see this offensive line and we're rushing 4 or 5 guys, and it's just like, shoot, man, it's like freaking Stonewall Jackson right there on that offensive line, and they're just holding up all of our guys, and Baker Mayfield's having a little tea party in the backfield. Like, we only had 6 pressures the entire game. Yeah. And it's just absolutely atrocious. And especially, too, we give up a draft pick for Matt Judon. And I think it was a third-round pick.
Yeah, it was your third-round pick in 2025. As a Patriots fan, I don't mind it. And 2,
I can see why now. It's a lot of it's maybe not Matt Judon's fault.
I was going to say, I think it's a scheme thing. I don't think it's Matt Judon, because the Patriots did a really good job of getting him in one-on-one matchups in New England, and he was able to win those. So I just don't know why it's not quite translating down in Atlanta.
Yeah. I don't know. But that's why I'm on the internet and I'm not on the sideline defensive coordinator of the Atlanta Falcons. And so I just look at this team. We should match up well against the Cowboys because I think we can shut down CeeDee Lamb. I believe our offense, barring some of their star players coming back, like Micah Parsons, like Deron Bland, like maybe Brandon Cooks on the offensive side of the ball coming back, we should match up well against this team. But at the same time, though, this reminds me similarly of the Seattle Seahawks game a couple weeks ago, where it's just their weaknesses are also our weaknesses, or match up against our weaknesses. And we weren't able to capitalize on that. We had no pressure on Geno Smith during that time. He was able to kind of pick apart. We had a lax defensive game that game, and then we got behind, and then we made mistakes offensively. So offensively, we got to be stout. Kirk Cousins and this offensive line has done a great job, at least against Tampa Bay. And so we need to keep building that connection between him and Kyle Pitts. The Cowboys have want to make sure I get this correctly, the 31st ranked rushing defense when it comes to yards allowed per game. And it should be the worst. There's a major outlier on there, as the Giants only rushed for 26 yards against them. So I want to see a heavy dose of Tyler Algier, Bijan Robinson just running it down their throats, especially honestly, and to your point you said earlier, even if Mika comes back, run it right at him. Like, that needs to be the game. Their linebacking room is weak. And even, too, if Deron Bland comes back, I think that our receivers can match up well against them in the passing game also, too. So offensively, it shouldn't be an issue. This Cowboys team has given up a lot of points and a lot of yards this season. I think we can go and do that. But I want to see a solid defensive performance as well, because, Ryan, even you said it yourself, and as a Falcons fan, I disagree with you, but you're like, hey, maybe they're a Super Bowl caliber team. There's been no Super Bowl caliber team with the type of defensive line that we have now. And, like, we've got to figure something out here in the second half of the season. And so it's probably going to be a bunch of YouTube comments about this guy on the right being deranged as a Falcons fan. But it's like, we're finally good. Like, we haven't been good since we won the Super Bowl against your Patriots. And now it's like we have an opportunity here to have home playoff games, to potentially be a high seed in the NFC. But if with this defensive line, the Commanders are going to pick us apart, the Detroit Lions are going to run for 10,000 yards against us. Like, if we want to go and compete against these teams, Grady Jarrett, Eddie Goldman, David Onyemata, Jimmy Lake, defensive coordinator, has got to do a better job with this game plan of providing internal pressure on this offensive line. We've just been getting manhandled every single game.
No, and that's one of the frustrating things is, like, you can cover up a lot of things. Like, I even go back to, like, that Bengals Super Bowl team. Granted, they had a really good defensive line, but, like, their offensive line was abysmal. It's one of the worst offensive lines I can ever remember on a team making it to the Super Bowl. Actually, I guess the year before the Chiefs, but that's, again, neither here nor there.
Yeah.
But, like, you can cover that up with good skill position players. You can have a good running game and good running backs and kind of spread things out and not allow teams to send 5 or 6 guys, because you're going to spread them out so much. And that's kind of what Cincinnati was able to do. If you can't stop the run, there's just not much you can do about it. Like, if that defensive front isn't up to snuff, there's just not a lot you can do to cover it up. And so it is really frustrating, especially when the Falcons have invested so much in this roster to get it to this point where I really think Kirk Cousins he's not a Super Bowl winning quarterback, but he is a quarterback that could get you to the Super Bowl. Your wide receiver room and skill position player room, I think, is good enough to potentially
Yeah.
get there. Your secondary is definitely good enough to get you guys there.
Yeah.
It's just this one big wart on this team is this defensive line.
So I'll actually make it even more specific. It's more the defensive line and the pass rush. I know statistically right now we're 21st overall in rushing yards allowed, and so maybe some of that's on the defensive line. It's more our pass pressure. And if our secondary wasn't so good with Jesse Bates, with AJ Terrell, with Justin Simmons, who didn't play in the last game but supposed to be coming back and has had a good season so far, him and Jesse Bates have matched up really well together. We just can't get any pressure on the quarterback at all, unless if our second half defense has been okay, has been serviceable. It's just we always start off really slow. So that's just the area where we really got to improve on, because if we can get better at that, we don't have to rely on Kirk Cousins in this offense to put up 30 plus points every single game, because that's not gonna be a good recipe for a late season push to the Super Bowl. So, kind of getting into this game here, though, I will say it's been a long time. Thanks for listening. If you're still here with us, thanks for listening to my rant. But if you're a Falcons fan, you probably agree with me completely. I would think just watching the game, it's just week in and week out. But I am going to go with the Falcons here in this game. I think we match up well with them. I don't think the Cowboys are going to be fully healthy on the defensive side of the ball, which is going to have a full open playbook, I feel, for the Falcons running game and passing game. So wouldn't be surprised if we have a similar type of playbook and performance that we did against the Panthers, where it's a heavy dose of Algier and Robinson, both guys potentially running for 100 rushing yards. So, and on the flip side too, I think we're going to be able to slow down CeeDee Lamb enough with our combination of AJ Terrell and Jesse Bates. So I'm going to go with the Falcons here.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Atlanta also. It's tough going from, I think, Dallas to San Francisco, back to Dallas, then Dallas to Atlanta. Like, just one, that's a lot of travel. Two, they were able to put up a little bit of fight at the end of that game, but that San Francisco game really was not close. I think San Francisco had it pretty well put away, at least going into the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And it just kind of was a little bit disheartening, I think, for Dallas. The injuries definitely showed up. And I do like Dallas's skill position players and some of what they have going on. I just don't know. Part of me thinks like there's like a Jerry Jones curse or something going on. Dallas just doesn't seem to be able to like get themselves over the hump right now.
Yeah.
And I think that this Falcons team kind of edges them out in a shootout. I'm going to say 38-35. I think it's going to be a really high scoring game though.
Honestly, with the way our defensive line is playing, I can 100% see that. Like, if we had a confident defensive line and a defensive system, and I will say too, it's like our defensive line is older, so that's where I kind of push it on Jimmy Lake, where it's like I think there's talent there, especially too. You have Grady Jarrett, coming back from an ACL tear, but then you still go and get Matt Judon. Is that there should be some sort of scheming system where we can provide some sort of consistent pressure on the quarterback. And we had that earlier on in the year, but these past couple of weeks just has not been there. And so I think we got lucky that the Buccaneers had some major injuries in last week's game, which is why they were extremely weakened and why we were able to walk away with the victory there. But throughout a full season, though, our defensive line's got to play a lot better.
Yeah. So let's go ahead. Let's wrap this one up here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below on who you think is going to come out ahead in this matchup. Will it be the Dallas Cowboys? Will it be the Atlanta Falcons? Other than that, we'll see you guys next time.